welcome back to another episode of the Show. My name is Aaron, and as always, I'm joined by my partner in pop culture crime, my cousin and co-host, Landon. What's going on, cuz?
Good day. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Been a
There's
while.
been a lot of things going on. You've got work stuff going on. Personally, I had a tragedy. My entire hard drive just died. We have lost episodes, folks. Lost episodes. Things that we recorded that will never be seen. And I apologize for that. But, that's the fickle nature of technology.
It is. Alas. Alas. And I
Alas.
was traveling. I had some work things, but so all in all, but now we're back in the action and with some kind of cool things that we're doing going forward with the show.
So, I guess it's all up to our three listeners to determine. All right. Before we dive into today's topic, I just want to remind you all to whether you're listening or viewing, uh, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. That way you never miss out on whenever we drop our latest content. Trust me, you do not want to experience FOMO on this show. Now, Landon, today we are going to be talking about something that's near and dear to, I believe, both of our hearts, book to screen adaptations. And not just any adaptations, we are zeroing in on the master of horror himself, Stephen King. Now, we have discussed Stephen King in some detail in the past, but today we are focusing on his collection, Different Seasons. This one is a collection of four novellas that gave us not one, not two, but three pretty incredible film adaptations. How excited are you to dive into this?
Really excited. Of course, as you know, I'm a big Stephen King fan. But when we're talking about just because I think one of the things about this different seasons is it's not your traditional Stephen King, like It or Pet Cemetery or Salem's Lot or the Stand is maybe closer, but at the same time, like this is like real. This is like a people. Oh, I don't even know how to describe it. How do I say it? It's not a supernatural aspect. It is a life and hardship and psychology lesson, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe sociology. I think it's crazy, but it's very different. It people often, in fact, I would say, just like say the Green Mile, like are like Stephen King. What that
Mhm.
movie, right?
Yeah.
Like they wouldn't think of him with these. So I'm really excited to go into it.
Yeah, that's how it usually is with Shawshank Redemption, right?
Right.
Because and Shawshank Redemption is one of the four stories in different seasons. Yeah, he definitely takes more of a dramatic turn. You're getting character studies here as opposed to some kind of supernatural horror, which up until this point, that's what he's been known for. Because when this came out, you've got Carrie, you've got The Shining, you've got The Stand that have all come out, and so people are used to these horrifying images conjured up by this, the king of horror, and
Yeah.
now you're getting these, I don't want to say laid back, but uh, again, more dramatic uh, character studies. So let's get into it. Different Seasons is a collection, as we mentioned, of four novellas. We've got Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, which obviously became the Shawshank Redemption. The Body, which was adapted into Stand By Me, and Apt Pupil, which was adapted into Apt Pupil. So we're going to start with Shawshank. This is the part of the book that is kind of under the each 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 book, each novella has a season attached to it. This one is Hope Springs Eternal. So Landon, what do you think makes this adaptation so universally loved?
Um, so it first of all, Tim Robbins does a really great job because you're going for somebody who is just not you look at him and he's just your normal guy, right? And then he's going into this environment that is so not normal. And so you come almost are imagining yourself being in that, as someone who is, just goes into the prison system and then dealing with the different aspects of that you hear about, right? You have people who are extremists, people who are, there's this sexual concern there about, you know, many things. But then also friendship. You're dealing with like older criminals who have lived at this point in prison who are released. And then the overarching question of, you know, is there a crime really committed? You have this warden, who's not a good guy either. And you come to love Morgan Freeman, who, I mean, I think this might have been my first movie I saw him in. I don't know. But he carries with him in his entire career this respect as some wise man that even starts here and goes throughout his career. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack with it, but I'd say the overarching value in it is you're just seeing so many different dynamics from a really cool vantage point, and you have a breakout of prison.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a prison break without having to watch an episode every week of a guy with a tattoo of the prison all over his back.
Yeah,
Um,
what about you? What are when you think of this books and the movie? I mean, what do you think about it? Because I at this point the book is like the movie stands out in my mind more than the book, and that is not normal for me. So
yeah, I would say for me too, the movie is a lot more impactful. And I think it's just the way that they managed to adapt the story to the screen in such a way that um like even Stephen King himself has, I believe I read somewhere that he said this is the his favorite adaptation of all of his work. Um, yeah, it's funny you mentioned, this may be your first memory of Morgan Freeman in a movie. I don't think for me, I think if I look back, maybe Driving Miss Daisy is my first,
yeah, see,
but
I didn't see. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
this is definitely where I thought, you know what, that's the voice I want narrating my life. I
yeah.
definitely want that voice to tell my story. The Shawshank Redemption is often cited as one of the greatest films ever made. And I think a big part of that is how faithfully it captures the spirit of the novella. So you've got the characters that we've mentioned, the themes of hope and resilience, all of that's there. But what's interesting is how the film expands on certain elements. For instance, Red. All right, he's played by Morgan Freeman, but originally in the novella, he's written as a white Irish American.
Oh,
So
I
like,
didn't remember that.
yeah, so like if you're reading the novella and you haven't seen the movie, you're not going to picture Morgan Freeman. You're going to picture a Conan O'Brien type of guy.
That's
And
hilarious. That is hilarious because I didn't read the book until after I first saw the movie, and I think
yeah,
I skimmed over that because maybe my mind was like, no, it's Morgan Freeman. So no,
I actually lucked out. Like I was one of those that I did read the, like I said, I think I told you I read different seasons back in college. Since we're talking 20 some odd years ago. But I also didn't see Shawshank Redemption until college as well. So after I had read different seasons, a friend of mine was like, dude, if you haven't seen Shawshank Redemption, you've got to watch it. And she's like, you know what? We're dropping everything right now. We're gonna go watch it. I've got it on DVD. So we went to his room and just sat for the next, 2.5 hours watching Shawshank after I'd read it. And I was like, this is incredible.
yeah,
Automatically top 100.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know that I knew much of Tim Robbins. I'd seen the Hudsucker Proxy, but that's kind of more silly, right? So. I don't, but I think I might have seen that after Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption was one of those movies that I saw when I was a teenager. That was, cause when did it come out again? What time was the movie?
93, I believe.
Yeah, so I would have been 12. So I know I saw it after it came out. I have to say I was probably like 14 or something like that. And when I had watched it, I'm like uh not sure if I'm gonna get into it or not, right? And then I'm hooked. I'm hooked into it as soon as you start seeing the dynamic in prison and also his danger in prison.
Mhm.
Do you feel like the book and slash the movie had, like, especially the movie had acts, like where you had certain acts and it advanced, kind of like theater? You don't see these kind of things happen as much in movies these days. Everything's just like a long story arc, and I'm sure there are technical acts if you went to like the writer of it, but or the screenplay. But I felt like this had really strong bookends and acts as you get to each stage of the storyline. What about you?
Yeah, you do see some of that structure in there. I feel like your prologue is going to be the very beginning where you've got Andy in his trial where he's being steamrolled,
Right.
for this murder. Whoever his defense attorney was a joke.
None.
He
Yep.
needs to step that up.
Yep.
Um, but then once the prison story begins, you don't get it from Andy's perspective anymore. Like the prologue is Andy's perspective, and then the rest of it is told by Red. And so I feel like you're getting your three-act structure from Red based on every 10 years when he is up for parole again, if that makes sense. You've
Yeah.
got these it's not as if, as if the story is being told in like in vignettes, like you like say like a Christmas story,
Right.
where it feels like you're getting a bunch of little short stories all like sewn together as one movie.
Yeah.
With Shawshank, you're getting one long movie, but it is broken down into certain seasons of time for these men, this group of friends inside this prison, and with it all being told by Red, we're seeing his perspective of you know he's doing what he's supposed to do, he's going to his parole hearing, saying what he feels like he's supposed to say. He does
Right.
it again another 10 years later, and then another 10 years later he's finally like, you know what, I'm not going to say what y'all want me to say. I'm going to say what he's like, I don't know what you expect from me, but here's how it
Yeah.
is. And
Yeah.
that's when they release him.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have that structure there. I don't know if it's necessarily intended to be like a three-act structure because, obviously when he is paroled that last time, that's the end of the movie. We're coming to the very end and realizing um you get busy living or you get busy dying.
Right. Yeah, and yeah, that's pretty cool the end though, right? I mean, just when Red finally gets released, right? And he goes and actually finds the goes to the tree, like or
Yeah.
he goes to the field or whatever, that was really cool. So yeah, great movie. I would say because I've been thinking about movies for my kids that would be great for them to watch, and I think this is one of them because while there are like implications of things that are serious, and especially when he's being abused physically and sexually, it's more alluded to than shown. I mean, it's completely alluded to and not shown. I should clarify, but it's still like a really good movie about resilience and also just he almost had to redefine himself, you know, and in order to survive there. And then if always having in the back of his mind the the breakout, of him breaking out. And that's
Right.
where the poster comes in, right?
Yeah,
That that
it's so
Rita
funny. Like
Hayworth poster, which isn't Rita Hayworth, but who was it in the movie?
it was Rita Hayworth.
Oh, they did the same. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was.
Yeah. Of course, over the years it changes. He starts out with Rita Hayworth, then it becomes Marilyn Monroe, then it
Right,
was
that's right. Yeah,
Raquel Welch.
yeah, that's it. That's right.
Um, yeah, it's so great. You've got that going in the background. If you've never seen it, you've never read it, you don't know that he's plotting his escape for really 20 some odd years, and working on it behind the scenes every night. He's just chipping away at that wall, and eventually he gets out. It's so
And
crazy.
shaking out the his grindings into
Yeah,
the yard as they
pieces
walk.
of his wall out into the yard. Yeah. All right, let's shift gears a little bit to
Yeah.
Stand By Me, which
Mm,
has always been one of my all-time favorite movies.
yeah.
This one is based on The Body, and it's a perfect example of how a great adaptation can capture the essence of a story while making necessary changes for the screen. What stands out to you about this adaptation?
I guess one of the things that strikes me is I really like the book, the It, or It, It. And and also I think Stephen King, you'll find in a lot of his, he has kids, right, working
Mhm.
through something, and then up to adults. You had it in Dreamcatcher, as well, and he'll use kids. I mean, just thinking about like even Salem's Lot, or just he really has a great way of showcasing kids and friendship and camaraderie. So it has like a strong friendship camaraderie. And basically, the body is kind of like it without Pennywise, I think, because you have these kids together, and then you have, this Kiefer Sutherland, you have, these other characters that are coming in, and they're all kind of on a quest. Now, the quest for them is going and maybe being the ones who discover this body, right? That's been reported. But to me, like, there's a lot of camaraderie along the way, and then you kind of mix it in with a bit of like a uh the Breakfast Club, right, where the kids are learning things about each other and stuff. And I don't know, I really love it because it's just down to earth, and it's really cool.
Yeah. It really is. It's the way Rob Reiner translated King's story here to the screen. It's masterful. You've got the casting of these, at the time, young actors. You've got this nostalgic '50s setting. You've got this balance of humor and heart. All of it just works so well, and the soundtrack is fantastic as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
remember that was one of those. Remember like the Columbia House thing where you'd get like 12 CDs for a penny or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
That was that was one I did when I decided I was gonna, fall for that trap for a while.
yeah,
One of my 12 CDs was the Stand By Me soundtrack with all those oldies on it. It was so great.
yeah.
Um, I I can't say enough about Stand By Me. There's just it's insane to think of the talent that you had in those four young actors
Oh
of,
my
what
gosh.
of our main crew. You've got
River
Will
Phoenix,
Wheaton,
Will
River.
Wheaton. Yeah,
Okay, so let's say River Phoenix for the last of these four, right? Okay, so you got Will Wheaton, you got Corey Feldman, and you've got Jerry O'Connell. Still, all still with us. Corey Feldman doing some things here and there these days, but you really you see more of Will Wheaton and Jerry O'Connell. Will Wheaton is basically the face of Star Trek. Um, I mean, constantly he is always the one who's there to do like the after show interviews with
yeah,
the stars of the new Star Trek series.
yeah.
He's kind of like your pipeline to what's going on behind the scenes of the world of Star Trek. And then you've got Jerry O'Connell, who is a part of Star Trek now as the voice of Commander, I can't remember his name. He's on Star Trek Lower Decks.
Good next, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, and they've had successful careers, ups and downs.
And
Um,
Jerry O'Connell does a lot of voice acting now, doesn't he?
he does, yeah. He's done Superman. He's
Superman.
done
Right.
um just all kinds of stuff. And I really do think, we mentioned River Phoenix. Of the four, I think that he gave the standout performance.
Oh yeah,
In
yeah,
that in of those four kids. They were, don't get me wrong, they're all great. They were all great in this movie in the
yeah.
parts that they played. But River Phoenix, whenever I watch this movie, I cannot help but think, what if he hadn't died at such a young age? What would he have gone on to do
Oh
as
yeah.
an actor?
Yeah, no
Like
question.
like I'm thinking we never would have heard of Leonardo DiCaprio because you would have had River Phoenix coming in and taking all of these same kind of roles because they had that same kind of look, right?
Yeah.
And you know, uh, coming to mind, I'm thinking of like, you got Sneakers, you got Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and then after that, it's just like it's
Yeah.
it's so sad to think like
Gone
where he
gone
could have
too soon.
gone.
Yeah.
But also Kiefer Sutherland as Ace Merrill.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
if you want a bad guy,
Oh my
this
God.
is a bad guy.
The only
Uh,
time that I mean, I think about him in like in this, and I think about him in A Time to Kill. And I'm like, dude, oh, of course, Lost Boys, right? But Lost Boys was more like he was kind of a cool bad guy, and he's really like a jerk. And I mean, he's a jerk in this. And then in Time to Kill, obviously he's horrible as well. But he is so good at playing bad, so good, you know,
I love the scene. I will watch, like, I'll fast forward to the end of it just to see this scene. But
when
where
he
they've
stands
gotten
up
to
to
where
him.
they've yeah,
Yeah.
where they've gotten to the body, and they're all there, and the confrontations there, and Gordy, Will Wheaton, has the gun, and he's aiming right at Ace, and Ace goes, "What are you gonna do? Shoot us all?" "No, Ace, just you." I'm just like,
That's
"Oh,
such a
drop the
good
mic.
line.
That's it. It's over."
Yeah, that's such a good line. Yeah, man, that's oh, what a good storyline. And then ultimately, you also tie, and again, this is very Stephen Kingish, that you tie to the future, right? That's you're kind of getting a flashback here, and then
Right.
you kind of see how their lives go on, and but ultimately they all kind of look back on the friendship, and the camaraderie, what have the leeches scene. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Yeah.
No, this may be where I have like my low key fear of standing bodies of water. I
Oh
just
geez. That's
lakes,
so rough.
ponds, bathtubs, no thanks. If it
Oh
is a standing body of water, I don't want to get in it.
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
pretty funny.
yes, that's
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's get on to Apt Pupil before we run out of time. I have to admit, this is one that up until yesterday I'd never seen.
Yeah.
And in preparing for this episode, I did find out it's playing on Prime Video, and so I turned it on. Figured why not? It is a fantastic movie. Like
Oh my
it's
yeah.
scary.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, here's the thing. So Ian McKellen plays our Nazi in this movie, and honestly, I don't think I have memories of him as anything but Gandalf or Magneto. And so to see him play this other obvious evil role is like just mind blowing. He is so good. Um, go. I mean, tell. So you've seen it before, and have more experience with it than I had. Like I said, I just saw it for the first time yesterday. So tell me, what do you think?
Um it's uh, well, it's interesting because the kid I knew from The Client,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the kid was
Yeah.
in The Client, and I saw The Client naturally before I saw the App Pupil. And then I read App Pupil before I watched the movie. I think that's how it worked out. But anyway, they couldn't have cast a better kid for it. And I think maybe I was already kind of set up for this kid being this way because in The Client, he's kind of like he's a tough kid,
Mm-hmm.
right? In this case, the kid is not doing well in school. He's kind of a troubled kid, troubled situation. And if you just take the bare bones of it, he starts off that way, he ends up being valedictorian. All right. And the course of this kid and becoming getting his life together is largely due to this man, and this man's effect on his life. And I mean, you look at it and you say, well, there's a few things I want to kind of dive into, but on the outset, I'll say this isn't necessarily, no, this isn't at all a story of manipulation. This isn't that to me, this isn't at all a story of like this former Nazi who's not really a former Nazi. He's a Nazi commander manipulating this kid. This is a story about this kid being associated with someone who is backwards in his thinking, but he indulges in this man and even coerces and forces this man into a situation. And naturally, when you play with the devil, it's gonna affect you. And to me, he is corrupted at his own will by this man, not manipulated, corrupted. And I think it's a very important distinction because some things you could watch and say, "Oh, this kid got, this kid, anyway, that's my initial thoughts. I want to dive into it more, but what are your thoughts?"
So it's funny you mentioned the manipulation part. I think they manipulate each other.
That's fair.
Um, and and honestly, I think that the kid manipulates the old man um more so than the other way around. I think the balance of power shifts throughout the movie and throughout the book to where they are on even ground eventually.
At one point, right?
Um but I think that the kid
Yeah,
Todd, I think he feels like he's got the upper hand the entire time in this relationship because he has figured out that this man is a former Nazi, a current Nazi, who is on the run. He has changed his identity. He's forged documents so he can be claimed to be an American citizen when really he is wanted by Israeli authorities for his crimes as a Nazi. And so, this kid shows up on his doorstep and is threatening to reveal the
expose.
truth
Right.
unless he tells him stories about what it was like to be on the inside in the Holocaust. Now, I don't know what that says about the kid from the start.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to be interested in history, right? It's
This is
another
not
thing
that.
to find
Yeah.
a Nazi and be like, "Hey, I want you to paint me a picture of what you did. I want the details." No, that's sick. That's twisted.
And
So,
that's what I mean is he like it's like playing with the Ouija board, right? You're just asking for stuff, right? I mean, and really I would say, Ian McKellen's character was a dormant killer. I mean, a dormant, you know, horrible person who was settled and then he
right.
awoken the dragon,
Mhm. Yeah. You
and
poke the
it's like,
bear and
oh,
now he's out. Yeah. Yeah, and it's so much worse in the novella, right? The In the novella, and this, Brian Singer's the director here, and when he adapted the story to film, he not only shortened the story a bit, but he toned down the violence a lot. In the novella, your kid Todd becomes a serial killer. Like
that's exactly right.
he is killing homeless people left and right. And when you say that he awoke the dragon in this Nazi, uh, he he's also a serial killer and is killing homeless people left and right.
Right.
It's like that, you've got two active serial killers in the same area killing homeless people, but they don't know about each other, even though they're practically best friends.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
just nuts.
it's absolutely nuts. And I think in the movie it was just the one, right? It was just he couldn't
Right? Yeah.
Ian McKellen couldn't kill the one homeless guy, and so Todd does it for him, right? Isn't that how it ends up? It's been a
Yeah.
while since I've seen it. But yeah, in the book it was more. And the fact is that you're kind of taking this young sociopath, right? I'm thinking of the movie American Psycho, right? Just because I'm like, how do you get this way, right? So you take this young sociopath, or let's just say budding sociopath, right? Who is
A lot of
just
potential.
he's yeah, potential. Now I'm assuming in the background he's been like killing small animals and torturing them, right? That we don't see it on screen. But he is pretty much asking, and you understand at the point when he starts really becoming a killer, that he is really indulging himself into this psychopathic behavior and he wants to grab and understand. And I think like other people in history have looked at other crimes of other serial killers and have really indulged themselves. And so it's just fuel to the fire,
Yeah.
for this kid, which leads him to become what he becomes.
It's almost like this relationship he has with uh, why can't I think of the character's name? The Nazi starts with a
Oh,
D. I know. Um,
Dussender,
yes, Dusender.
Dussender, I think it was.
He's got this relationship with Dusender, and it's just it inspires him to become the worst versions of anybody.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
it's oh man, it's so messed up.
Well, and the
Um,
idea of talking about the home, I mean, because if you think about the Nazi Party looking at whether the gypsies or and the Polish and the Jewish people, they looked down on them as a plague on society. And so naturally he's looking at homelessness in the same way. And it's just it's good in the sense that you look at it and you have an understanding about how low humanity can go, right? It's helpful, but then you look at it too and you go, ugh, especially because, you know, some people don't like Ross from Friends, you know. Some people don't. I get it. There are aspects there that can be a little petulant and whiny. And yet that last scene, that when he like when he threatens him that
yeah,
way, I mean, you're and I think at that moment, David Schwimmer French realizes what he's got in front of him. Like he
oh yeah,
at that moment, you see it on his face. He's like, "What?" You know what I mean?
yeah. For a second there, I thought he was going to wet himself.
Seriously. I mean that's the part about it that's frustrating. I walked away from the movie. I remember thinking to myself, man, you know, if you're going to adapt this, I get when you're reading a book, sometimes you're left with the the ending that's kind of like, I mean, even Pet Cemetery ends in a way that you're like, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
it ends in such a way that you're just like, well, I guess we aren't going to get resolution here. We're just gonna leave it out there. And this is the same way. The kid gets valedictorian. He speaks. He does his quote, and you're just and he gets away with it, and it doesn't make you feel good, you know. At the end
no,
of it, it's
no.
troubling, you know.
And uh, to say that the novella ends on a much darker note is an understatement, but we'll leave it at that. Um, so we're coming close to time here. It's clear that King's vivid characterization, he has this ability to ground these fantastic stories in relatable human experiences. Um, do you think that plays a role in how adaptable his work is?
Yeah, I think probably from for anything, if you think about what actors have to work with, you know, when
Hmm.
you're bringing something to life on the screen, sometimes maybe it's, you know, maybe it's not as deep, but you really he lays out the psychology of each character. That's what he's known for. So,
Minor
hey,
characters.
if you're even minor characters, yeah, if you're a person who's like, I don't like scary stuff, I don't want read Stephen King, read different seasons because this is a selection that that really gives you the value prop of Stephen King's works and character development and their psychology without having to get into the things that are going to keep you up at night. And if you're a Stephen King fan who's only read like the biggies, like the Stand and It and all those and The Shining, great. But this humanizes it and are really, I think everybody should read at least um, the body. And I don't know about Apt Pupil. That may not be something everybody should read, but I do think
Save
the
that one
body's
for,
really
when you're feeling particularly sick.
good.
Um, yeah, don't sleep on Stephen King's short stories. Those collections of short stories, Graveyard Shift or Night Shift,
Yeah.
um, there's his short story collections are so good. And people so much of the time don't give them the credit that they deserve because it's so easy to look at his bigger
Right.
novels, the thousand pagers, and be like, you know what, that's Stephen King. His short stories are something.
Yeah. Agreed.
All right, so let's get into the next section of our trying this new thing with different parts to the show. Here we're going to call it Pop Culture Pulse. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some recent happenings in the world of since we're talking about book to screen adaptations. Let's talk about that. Landon, have you heard about we got the recent release of It Ends With Us, starring Blake Lively. That is an adaptation of a book of the same name. I've been hearing it's gotten mixed reviews, but from people that I know who have read the book and seen the movie, they like the movie better. And that's
Oh,
rare.
interesting. Yeah, that is rare. So my wife went and saw it 2 nights ago and
Oh yeah. What'd
really
she think?
loved it. She thought it was great. She hadn't read the book, but she enjoyed it. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Is she went to the 9:30 showing, and my wife's bedtime is 9:07, at any place at any time. And so for it to keep her up and for her to watch the whole thing through, that is more telling than any verbal accolade that she could have given
That's impressive. I fall asleep in a movie I'm going to see at 11 in the morning. So, you know.
it. The movie of work.
All right, so yeah, it's like I said, it's gotten some mixed reviews, but I'm glad your wife liked it. Speaking of adaptations, there's been some news about an upcoming Salem's Lot adaptation, another one. So this will be the
Oh,
third time. And the last I heard, it had been moved
series or movie?
a movie.
Okay,
So it was supposed to be a theatrical release, but now it's been switched to a streaming debut on Max.
sure.
Um, but they still haven't announced when it's going to hit. Apparently, it's been filmed. Have you heard
Really?
anything about it? Yeah, this
No,
is
I really, I, so long as it has the part with Callahan in the kitchen, I think it was in the kitchen, and him putting up the crucifix and then Barlow laughing at him because, he really didn't have any faith.
yeah, because he had no faith. Yeah,
I can probably handle anything with the movie so long as that's a powerful scene. And then just overall, I think I don't really need it. To be honest with you, there, everything the first one that came out, I was pretty happy with. I enjoyed the original Salem's Lot from the
from
80s,
from the
was it?
70s.
70s, yeah. I
Yeah.
liked it. Yeah, I don't think I need it. You?
Um, I didn't really care much for the 70s one with the Starsky or Hutch. That was the lead.
Oh, start.
David Soul
Yeah,
was the lead. Played Ben Mears. I know I saw the early 2000s one with Rob Lowe.
yeah.
Um,
I didn't like that one.
I feel like Salem Slot is one of those that like if you got it in the hands of a good writer and a good director, you could really make something of it. Because the book is fantastic.
Oh, the book's great. Nothing
But
touches.
like the so far the two adaptations I've seen of it have not impressed me at all.
Was
And
it
so yeah,
Donald Sutherland, the what's his face? Is that who was the guy, Barlow's guy?
oh,
Um,
in the newer version,
yeah, wasn't it Donald Sutherland?
I can't remember. I just know that Rob Lowe was Ben Mears and uh, James Cromwell was Father Callahan.
Yeah, right. Right. At least there was a
Um, all
um
right, and for all you action fans out there, we're not too far off from a third season of Reacher on Prime Video, which obviously is adapted from Lee Child's Jack Reacher book series. And I didn't know about this. I found out about this recently. Surprised me. James Patterson's Alex Cross is coming to Prime as a television series as well.
nice.
Um, so are you looking forward to either one of these? Did you read any of the Alex Cross books?
Don't think I have. I don't think so. No, I don't think I've read. Hold on. Alex Cross, is that the Along Came a Spider and
Yeah,
the Kiss the
Kiss the
Girl?
Girls. Yeah.
I read Kiss the Girls, and
Okay.
I liked Kiss the Girls, but I don't. There's a whole lot of them, aren't there?
Oh my gosh, there's like 25.
Yeah,
There's
yeah, yeah,
so many.
yeah.
I
I don't
read
know.
I read a bunch of
Yeah,
them like when I was in college and then for a few years after. Um I would say I've probably read half of the books and then I quit. And it's like I quit reading them because I felt like they were all the same. you're
Yeah.
getting the same procedural kind of stuff every time. And
Right, right.
I like James Patterson. He's a quick read because all of his chapters are like 3 pages long.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's really easy to pick up a book and just fly through it. But like I said, I felt like all the books were kind of running together. But it'll be interesting to see how they adapt this to a TV show. I've always said, like, if you've got a series like this, it would make more sense to make a TV show out of it than a movie.
Yeah.
That way, you're able to tell that long form story as opposed to trying to cram it all into 2 hours.
Yeah. Do we have any updates on the Harry Potter HBO Max
I have
thing?
not heard anything new. I don't know anything about casting or um if they've started filming it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yes.
All right, our next new section of the show we're calling Recommendation Corner. Landon, what have you been enjoying lately that you would like to share with our listeners to kind of recommend for them to watch or read or
Yeah.
whatever?
I'm about to finish a book that Aaron gave me for Christmas a couple of years ago called The Last Days of Krypton. And it's a really great book. I was skeptical. I mean, I'm never skeptical about anything Aaron gives me, but I just hadn't had any time to read it. But I was kind of like skeptical of the idea of like, would I even care, about the last days of Krypton? I mean, it blows up, right? But then as I got into it, first of all, I was immediately gripped into learning about Jor-El and Zor-El and Zod and Laura, and you get like the story of Jor-El and Laura, that's Superman's parents, original, biological parents, and their story and what Zod does and how the planet is being affected. And it's like, it's a really great book because it goes from this situation that seems pretty like stale and stagnant and stuck into a crazy dynamic. And oh my gosh, it's such a cool book. I love it. And so I would recommend that to anybody. I can't remember that. What's the guy's name that wrote it?
Kevin J. Anderson.
Yeah. If you get a chance, it's worth the read for really any age. I would say I'm gonna recommend it to my kids. So
Yeah, I agree. It's a really good book. Glad I gave it to you. For me, I've got two recommendations. I'm going to say House of the Dragon season two.
mm,
I finally finished watching that over the weekend. It was really good. I was disappointed with the ending of the season. It's like
really?
here we've got this big setup, and it's like, oh, now we got to wait 2 years for the next season to come out.
Yeah, that's
But
for
if you're a
sure.
Game of Thrones fan or you just love epic fantasy in general, watch this one. When you get to episode 4 of the second season, hold on to your freaking hats, guys.
Yeah, seriously.
It's oh my gosh, it's top notch. Second recommendation is the newest season of Cobra Kai on Netflix. As far as I'm concerned, this show just keeps getting better and better. I don't like the way they've split up this final season where you get 5 episodes now and 5 episodes later, and then another 5 episodes next year sometime. But it is still a great show. I love what they're doing with the world of Karate Kid, and the action sequences are always fun on that one.
Yeah.
All right. If we had any audience interaction, we'd throw that in right now. But we actually, since we haven't had an episode out for a while, we don't have any new comments or questions from our audience. But hey, if you do have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. This is the part of the show where we will take time to answer your questions. So if you are Sarah in Seattle or Neil in New York, let us know. We want to hear from
Tony,
you. We want to know what's going on
Tony in
with
Toronto.
Tony in Toronto. Is that somebody you met when you were traveling a few weeks ago?
No, but I wish I'd have met a Tony in Toronto.
That would be fun. All right. And then of course now we come to our teaser and sign off. This is where we will just talk about what's going on in our next episode. Landon, what do we got?
Well, what's really interesting is you find like as you get into long genres, storylines, movies, like a Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or a Harry Potter, that you kind of are learning like about a whole world and culture as if you were visiting another multiverse. You know what I mean? And so what we've come to understand is like, wow, we really are understanding this other culture as if we are, I don't know, going to an encyclopedia, and seeing and showcasing, or a documentary about another like live culture. So we're going to kind of go into that a little bit and talk about, are we doing the Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Star Wars it is. Yeah, so we're going to go into Star Wars and kind of talk about not just like one movie or one like little, aspect of it, but just the overall, world that's been created. Tolkien created a world himself, right, with Lord of the Rings, but
And
this world
languages.
has been created like not just by George Lucas. Like it's been a contribution of a lot of people, John Favreau as well, Filoni. I mean, you have so many things that have happened that have organically become what it is. We're going to talk about that.
Outstanding. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you will be reminded whenever the Show drops a new episode. We're signing off here, and as always, have a great whatever it is, wherever you are.